Welcome back, my beautiful humans, to another episode of If I Die Tomorrow. I'm your host, Nicole, and I'm really glad you joined me today. Today, I want to talk about something that I've noticed recently in my own life. I figure, as unnormal as I like to say I am, I'm sure there's a lot of other people who experience this and could understand and relate. Um, and sometimes we started off by, you know, saying we're easygoing and treating that as like a badge of honor, you know, carefree a little bit, what would you like for dinner? I'm open to whatever you want, you know. Um, we're just we're flexible, easygoing. It's okay, and sometimes it's true, and flexibility is a beautiful thing. Healthy compromise is how wonderful, long lasting relationships are built and survive. But if we're completely honest with ourselves today, I have noticed I make myself small. Um, and I never really like put a word to it or, dragged it out or sorted it or even marinated on the fact that there are certain things that I do um, that now that I look at it, mm, I'm shrinking myself. It's not compromise. I'm full on shrinking. I mean, compromise is when two people meet in the middle, keep their boundaries and their identities intact. Shrinking or making yourself small is when you erase your side of the map entirely so that there is no obstacles or decisions that anyone can bump into or disagree with or even judge. Today, I want to talk to you about the habit that we have of making ourselves small. And we don't always do it just to keep the peace of the people around us, but sometimes we do it to keep a very fragile, very temporary peace within ourselves. If you think about the spaces that you walk into every day, your home, your workplace, family gatherings, friendships, heck, even the grocery store where you're going to run into somebody. But have you ever noticed yourself adjusting? You adjust your volume before you go in, or you even open your mouth. Maybe you have a huge, exciting piece of news, but you tone down your excitement because you know the person across from you is having a hard time. And you don't want to make them feel small. So you do it to yourself instead. And at the time you do it, you don't really think about it. Like I said, I never called it out. I didn't marinate on it. I didn't label it. I don't really like labeling things because there's too many labels in this world. And, in the end, we're all just beautifully complex human beings who want simple things that we don't know how to ask for, want, or when we have them, accept it. Or another way that we shrink ourselves is you have a genuine boundary, a need, a simple want. Like you want to spend Saturday doing one thing that you really want to do, and it's something just for you. But instead of saying that, you tuck it away. Why? Because shrinking or making yourself small is a very effective shield, especially when you're in a relationship or you had plans with friends or your children or last minute gathering, or you got thrown on a work schedule, or any of those things. If we make our needs tiny, we don't have to deal with any kind of abrasive behavior. We don't have to defend our want. We don't have to say our why. If we don't offer an opinion, we're not judged for it because we didn't offer one. We treat ourselves, this is not the best way to put it, but we treat ourselves like furniture. And we try to take up as little square footage as possible so nobody trips over us. I usually imagine, now that I've noticed making myself small, I imagine, and this is just me, I imagine laying on a great big bed and like I have dogs, so I imagine my husband and then I imagine my dogs, and I imagine trying to take up as little room as possible so they have the room to spread and be comfortable and have their needs met, and I'm okay with being in that little sliver most of the time. And as I've gotten older and, menopause and the whole thing, it's just too hot. It's just too hot. But a lot of times when we do this, we tell ourselves we're being kind, or we need to do this to keep things running smoothly, or we're trying to manage someone else's ego, or walking on eggshells to avoid a reaction. That isn't kindness. It's a survival mechanism. Not always. But the problem with survival mechanisms or tactics is that they keep you surviving, but they never actually let you live. Sometimes it's not even a survival tactic, sometimes it's a sanity tactic. I'm going to go a little bit deeper. Of course I would. Why wouldn't I go a little deeper? Because I'm going to say, and this is something, I think this is how it actually came to my attention, is I don't always just shrink for other people. I shrink for myself too. When I'm completely alone in a room or looking in a mirror, I will tell myself I don't need, I don't want. Sometimes I don't deserve. And I think I do that to protect myself from disappointment. I don't know about you. I don't know if you've ever even thought about it. But sometimes when the world gets so loud or abrasive or heavy, we react by pulling the shade down completely, and we can become a hermit. And sometimes it happens to the best of us, really extroverted people. And when you're the one dealing with them, the excuse sounds absolutely plausible. But there's just something that gnaws at you a little bit because you know something's just not right. And that can happen not just to extroverted people, but also introverted people, especially when you're in their close circle. I will say there is a beautiful, purposeful kind of solitude where you step back to rest and reset. And you reset your peace and your heart and your soul. But when we become a hermit, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about when you retreat simply because the noise out there feels so aggressive that you don't want to face it. You step back, close your door, and you tell yourself you're just taking a break. Another sometimes lie we tell ourselves. I will say, over time, without you even realizing it, that retreat stops being the reset that you need and the temporary pause, and it starts to become a permanent habit. I like people. I enjoy interaction. And I will tell you that learning about this, making myself small and shrinking myself and seeing some of the things that I'm doing, holy crap, it's like somebody just hit me. You know, I laugh at people. Well, I don't laugh at people. I laugh when I tell people that, you know, hey, I've got something here. You can beat me with a wet noodle. And it's, but even that is shrinking myself so that somebody else doesn't look at me in a judgmental kind of way, like, I can't believe you asked that, or really, you don't, you know. Man, we tell ourselves so much crap. I will say, and you can get really comfortable in the quiet of your own isolation. And you start thinking, if I don't go out there, I don't have to defend who I am. If I don't engage, nobody can judge me. Except you're sitting in your room judging yourself. So you've kind of just defeated your purpose. But I have always said, just because I'm alone, I'm not lonely. Just as long as I'm not using being alone as an excuse to shrink myself, is where I'm going now. What I have to learn, what I have to make sure that I'm not doing. I'm going to say we hedge our bets by doing that. We lower the bar, and we lower it so low that we can never fail to clear it. We shrink our expectations because we want to avoid our true reflection. Because looking at the full truth of who you are and what you actually want requires a level of honesty that can shake your foundation to its core. And it can make the quiet, comfortable life none of them anymore. Staying small, staying hidden, and staying hidden away from yourself in your self-made cave means you never have to look in the mirror and ask the hardest question of all. Am I actually at peace? Or am I just hiding? And if I'm just hiding, am I just hiding from my own life? I want to be really clear here. If you are listening to this and you recognize yourself in some of these habits, please don't be down on yourself. This took me a minute because it's easy to beat yourself up and be your own worst critic. You didn't build a terrible, suffocating life. The truth of being a human is that we can exist both and in space. You can have a life that is genuinely good. A life filled with contentment, beautiful moments, deep love, and real comfort and connection. And you can still have pockets of yourself that you've tucked away. Human beings are beautifully human, messy, complex, wonderful souls. We can find true joy right where we are, while also realizing that we're keeping our elbows tucked in to avoid making waves and taking up too much space. Recognizing that your shrinking isn't failure. It's just awakening. It's looking at a life you've already appreciated and saying, this is good. But I'm allowed to inhabit it fully. I don't have to edit my own desires or silence my voice just to keep the goodness stable. And I know some of you out there that are listening probably have moments in your life that you go, absolutely not. I have to. And I understand. But there is hope. We'll say every time we quiet our voice to keep someone else from reacting or swallowing a dream to keep from being disappointed, we are trading a little bit of our raw, authenticity, for safety. And while that safety brings a quiet kind of contentment, it can also leave us wondering what else is out there. You can love the life you have and still decide to stop standing on your tippy toes in the corner of a room. I'd like to leave you with a thought. I have a few of those. They're not always good. But something to carry with you, especially when you feel the instinct to tuck your hands in your pockets and step backwards. You were not born to be the background noise in your own life. Stop cutting pieces of yourself off so others can carry you with them. The people who truly love you, they don't want a version of you that fits neatly into their pocket. They want you at your full height and space. And more importantly, you deserve to know what you look like when you stop hiding in the shadows. Stop being the sliver on the bed. I'm going to challenge you to try and catch yourself in the act with a sense of curiosity and not judgment. The next time you're about to say, I don't care, whatever's easiest, stop. And ask yourself, am I being flexible for compromise? Or am I just making myself small? Give yourself permission to take up space in the life that you are already building. Speak your boundaries. By God, have those. Because they're important. But admit your desires. your wants, and let them be big. Let it be messy, and let it be all yours. I want to thank you for being here with me today and letting me kind of get my smallness out. Because again, something I just kind of recently noticed, and I thought maybe other people are noticing it too. But as always, be kind, be grateful, stay humble. Until next time.